March 16th, 2020 at 2:26 p.m. We're here in the Idaho State Police District 1 conference room. This is Detective Sergeant VanLueven, and with me is Detective Tolleson. And if you could each introduce yourselves and state your full names.
Jennifer Lynn Drake. Cynthia Miller.
My name is Jonathan Drake.
And Cynthia, what's your relationship to the family?
Mother to Jennifer Drake.
Okay. And Jonathan, what's your relationship?
I'm the brother of
Okay. And also is Intel Analyst Ryan Logo. Okay, so we're here as an initial interview to talk to you about your husband who was the victim of a homicide on Thursday of last week up in Bonners Ferry, Idaho. He was a chiropractor by trade.
Yes.
Could you talk to us about how long he's been a chiropractor?
He graduated from chiropractic school in 2012 and immediately went into practice down in Austin, Texas. He graduated in Dallas, Parker College of Chiropractic, and then went and worked for somebody in Austin for just a couple years. And then he actually started his own business until, 2002. We moved in 2012. So from 2002 to 2012, we were in Texas with that business. We moved here.
So you said you worked in Austin for a couple of years?
For that whole time.
From 2000 to 2002?
2002 to 2012, we were in.
So 8 years.
Yes. 8 years. 10 years.
Right. Okay.
And then we moved here in June of 2012. He immediately started working for Dr. Scott Crawford, who is in Post Falls. And he has another partner, Scott. My goodness, I forgot his partner's last name. His other partner's name is also Scott. I forgot their last name. It'll come to me. Yeah.
So does he still work with Scott Crawford, or is he on his own?
He worked there for a couple of years. They had a disagreement.
Do you know what the disagreement was about?
It wasn't I think it kind of came a little bit to a head, but the final thing, I know that Scott had asked him to do a couple of things he did not agree with. One being to lie when it came to some insurance issues for patients. And Brian said he would not. And
if he had, what would the benefit have been? Would it have collected more money from the insurance companies? Is that the idea?
Yes. So, yes.
So after this disagreement, they
had a couple different, they got along fine. And so there's a lot more to that story after this. But he ended up when he walked away, it was pretty much, they were congenial. But at this time is when he started seeing Lowell Graber and Ed Byler from Bonners Ferry. These were two patients.
Lowell Graber?
Lowell Graber, and they're two people you will want to talk to.
Okay, could you spell Graber?
Graber.
Okay. And the other name?
Ed Byler. Eddbyler.
Okay.
And
they're from Bonners Ferry?
They're from Bonners Ferry.
EDD?
Uh-huh.
2 Ds.
Yeah, it's kind of odd.
BYLER?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
They had kept asking Brian to come up to Bonners Ferry to see people because a lot of Bonners Ferry people would have to come down to Scott Crawford's office.
They were patients?
They were patients. And so I know that Scott Crawford also had Bonner's Ferry patients as well. But Ed Byler and Lowell Graber started with Brian Drake. And when we left Scott Crawford, he did end up for a very small time working for another chiropractor here. Goodness, I forgot her name. Then it'll come to me, I'll have to look it up.
Take your time.
It's a family chiropractic. She works with, oh my
Is it
goodness.
Google?
Yeah, can you look that up? Just put chiropractors and CBA in Coeur d'Alene.
While he's doing that, you mentioned that there were a couple of reasons why he left working with Scott Crawford, and you mentioned one, the insurance company thing. What was the other one?
Well, there was, so it started getting to where it was kind of a disagreement that they noticed, like when he first came in, Brian felt like his other partner, Scott, the other Scott, they were both very kind. They're all Christians. They got along very well. But he did know that the other Scott, was not all that happy because now patients were going to have to be shared. So they made an agreement. We're not sharing our patients with you. People call in. You're not getting the patients. You'll have to get your own patients. And so I think that there was just an underlying, he's bringing in a third chiropractor, and that second chiropractor wanted to make sure he was not going to have to share patients.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then they are upper cervical chiropractors, which also is what Brian is upper cervical. It's very hard to find. It's a specialized technique. And so that's why they did this all together. But he made very little. And again, those were little issues that's not what broke the camel's back. I think the biggest part was just, I can make more somewhere else, as well as they're doing some things that are just not ethical. And I'm not going to, I've decided to leave. And so it wasn't like they didn't leave on really bad terms. Now, what did turn very bad, however, is if anybody were to ask me, anybody in the last 8 years that was mad at Brian, it would be Scott Crawford. He ended up leaving, I just had it, I could see it. He ended up, while he was at this other chiropractor's office.
You want the list of family chiropractors?
Yeah, that's her name.
Spolstra.
That's it, Spolstra. He worked for Spolstra.
Spoelstra.
Oh my gosh. SPOELSTRA. Okay.
Again, very nice people.
And that's a group?
It's her.
Okay.
Her
what's
husband works with her, but he's not a chiropractor.
What's her first name?
Amy.
Amy. Okay.
Yes. So he was working for her, again, didn't make too much money, but he kept having Ed Byler and Lowell Graber kept asking, please come up to Bonner's Ferry. At the time, I do know, and this is years ago, so you will have to figure out these details, but I know at the time, behind the scenes, Scott Crawford was really trying to get the local Mennonite church to make him the local chiropractor. So up there in Bonner's Ferry, they had a medical account, what you will, through the church, and that money would be paid to him if he was the local chiropractor. And so while Brian was with Spolstra, he had decided one day a week to go up and start seeing patients in Bonner's Ferry. And when he ended up telling her, I don't know if she found out or ended up telling her within a week or two, she lost it. She was very upset, said, this is so unethical, etc. And Brian's like, okay, there's no non-disclosure agreement. We have not signed, he broke nothing.
She was mad at him for going up and working one day a week in Bonner's Ferry?
Yes, because those patients would come down to us, they would come down here. So same thing with Scott. He had a lot of Bonner's Ferry patients. And she always got a cut of what Brian did. And so those patients would come to her practice. And he did not tell her before he went up there. And, of course, this was years ago.
Was there a relationship between her and Crawford?
No, but they were good. They were friends. They would talk. They went to the same marketing meetings, things like that.
Is this into Post Falls? Is that where Amy is
Yes.
at? Okay.
No, Scott Crawford's in Post Falls. Amy has moved, and she's in Coeur d'Alene. I'm trying to think of where she moved to. You can look that up, but I know she moved.
Okay.
But she got along very well with Brian. She's the one who sought him out and said, "Will you please come work for me?" And when we left, it started up in Bonners Ferry. Scott Crawford hit the roof. He actually sent out, because what started happening is his Bonners Ferry patients stopped coming to see him because now Brian is in Bonners Ferry, and he started losing a lot of patients.
You also said that Amy was angry at him as well.
Amy was mad at him as well.
Okay.
But the one that actually acted on this, Amy, she was upset. I think partly because he did that, and then also, he ended up saying he was going to go ahead and start a whole chiropractic office up there. She at least was very kind when he left. When I came in to talk to her and say, there is nothing unethical here. You cannot smear his name. Give me one thing that's unethical. I just think it was wrong. He did it and didn't tell me, And I get that. I think it was more hurts than it was ethical.
Uh-huh.
And they were kind. But Scott, however, ended up sending out a horrible letter to all the patients he knew in Bonners Ferry, completely smearing Brian. And we ended up, it was patients who came to Brian and said, "Do you see what's being sent to all these people?"
Approximately what year did this happen? All this stuff.
That was about 2014, 2015. So it was October of 2014 that he moved up to Bonners Ferry, if I remember right. Either 2014 or 15, but I think it was 2014.
Okay.
You don't happen to have a copy of this letter?
I wouldn't know unless it's in all Brian stuff. I even wonder if Lowell Graber and Byler would have it. I don't know. But he had several patients who would come to him and say, "Can you believe this was sent out?" So we ended up, his wife, Scott Crawford.
What was the nature of the smearing in the letter? What did you write about?
This unethical doctor, and I'm trying to remember whether or not I'm almost positive Brian's name was on it. How he was unethical, coming up to take it was probably half a page, a little more than half a page. And it was just all about how can you see somebody who, has unethically taken patients from somebody else, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I say that with the caveat that we had a discussion with him, and so trying to remember what the letter says compared to what he said to our face, it could be completely, that was 7 years ago, and I'm trying to actually think through that. But his wife, Scott Crawford, was a very close friend of mine. We worked on a lot of things together.
What is her name?
Her name is,
Cindy.
no, Scott Crawford. But good, thank you.
Isn't it Cindy?
Sophia? Yes.
Cindy Crawford.
Cindy Crawford. Oh my goodness, that's funny.
No, you
That's
know
hilarious.
who that is. That's Castaway Cellars.
Yes, that's Castaway Cellars. I hope that you know them because of something. They're the ones who ended up
I know them
getting,
because I supervise the alcohol beverage control
and they
detectives
ended
here.
up getting in trouble big time.
Yeah, they were
Yes.
conducting a racket because they were illegally importing wine into the state of
Yes.
Idaho and distributing it without going through a distributor.
Yeah. Are they still there?
Uh-huh.
They are.
But they
So
haven't-
ended up getting their license and everything.
Oh no, we're not through the process yet. So
Oh, you're kidding! It's still going.
Yeah.
Oops. Shelley Crawford. I'm sorry,
How do
my
you
brain
spell
is not thinking. Shelly. And so she and I had always said, no matter what happens with them, don't let that affect us. And so at some point, close after he had started his practice up there, we actually got hold of Scott and Shelley. Said, "Can we sit down? Can we talk about this?" And we down in Post Falls had breakfast. It's no longer there, but that Waffle House. And we sat down, and by the time we left, we actually, I think, got up almost in the middle and said, "Thank you, we're done."
So you agreed not to agree on what was going on?
Oh no, he flat out looked at him and said, "Those are my patients. You have taken my patients." And I remember looking at him going, "Who gets to decide where the patients go?" gives the best care or it's closer to their house. He's just used to being a big fish in a small town, and he looked right at us, and even his wife called me afterwards and said, I am so sorry. I told him he was so wrong, but he was so mad sitting across from Brian. Now, they have spoken once since then, and that was only because they happened to be walking into the same venue, and it was kind of like, hi. And I don't think they ever had a discussion since then in 6 years. He was so rude that day, and it really blew both of our minds just when it comes to a professional and how much he completely was. And then what happened? He knew that Brian opened a Sandpoint office, and so Scott went and opened a Sandpoint office. It only lasted 6 months to a year, pulled out. But they started going up to Sandpoints by 2 days a week, knowing that he had already started one there.
Whose idea that was?
I don't. And you know what?
Why didn't they start up the Bar Studio?
I was just going to say, I'm trying to think if they actually did do bonds. I think they lost the agreement with the church. The church did not end up making him that chiropractor. And I say that as in, I don't know any of those details. I just know Brian coming home saying, because a lot of who Brian's patients are a lot of his church members. So that's another reason for why, and so he would actually see them on the road going back and forth, say, I saw them in the car as they're going to Sandpoint. But obviously, they did not get enough patients because the business did not stay long enough.
Is there some relationship between chiropractic and the Mennonite Church? Why is it unique to the Mennonite Church?
They're very holistic. I think it's even Bonner's Ferry. They just seem to be very holistic. Mennonite Church is such a huge congregation of that community. And I think a lot of it too was because he was trying to get in underneath the umbrella of that health plan that they have there. It's where patients wouldn't necessarily, they have, and you'd have to look into this. Brian just said they had some type of health plan. This was years ago, so I don't even know if they still have it. But it allowed it to where patients were able to go, according to what they had given the church or whatever that plan is. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it would be like, here's our designated chiropractor for the church. And instead of the patients paying him, it was just something for the church.
So was Brian that person?
No, he never connected with the church.
Okay.
It's just, I know that a lot of his patients went to that church, but no, he never asked. He just went and opened his own business.
Okay.
So when did he open the business in Bonner?
So that was either, it was October of either 2014 or 2015.
Because he was going to change space.
He was like 2 buildings down in this little woodworking place. At the very beginning, first
North or south?
north. And it was just this tiny, tiny little office where this guy used to do woodworking. And it was just to start his patient base. This tiny little, and then he moved to the office he was at, but really close proximity right there.
So in that building when did he move in there?
I'd say within 6 to 8 months after he started up there. And again, I don't know if that was 2014 or 2015. I'd be able to look back on my records with all of our business stuff. I could tell you that, but
And that was Mr. Childress.
yes, Don Childress.
How's his relationship with him?
Very good. We have none. I send him a check every month on the dot. And other than Brian calling him once or twice to say, I'm not there because I just had back surgery. I'm out for 8 weeks. And I think he even left him a message. We really hardly ever talk to him because he sends us a bill of the utilities every 3 months. And I just send it a check.
So what is rent there?
Rent is $500 a month plus utilities on the 3rd month. So $700 to $800, depending on the season.
How long has Kip Hartman been his neighbor?
I think the whole time.
How's his relationship with Mr. Hartman?
So he's never really seen him. He says that her mother-in-law is very grumpy. She's the one he always sees.
She works
Misty? Yeah,
Yeah.
front desk. He very rarely sees Kip, even it's just like our hours or schedules are just different. And when he's at the office, he really sees patients. Like Bonner's Ferry, those 2 days that he's there are almost always very packed.
Which 2 days does he usually go to Bonner's Ferry?
He's always, unless there's like a holiday or something, it's Mondays and Thursdays.
So I'm looking at the book that was taken from his office that's got titled Chiropractic Schedule. And I've turned to the page of the last day showing the names for the 12th. So this book shows a Monday column, a Tuesday column, a Thursday column, and a Friday column.
Yes.
So the Monday, this would have been Bonner's Ferry. And then the Tuesday column would have been where?
Sandpoint.
Sandpoint. Okay. Did he have a practice at all in Hayden or Coeur d'Alene
Yes,
still?
that's what he did on Wednesdays.
And
and
where's
Friday.
the Wednesday?
I have a book in my home.
You take care of the Wednesday
Yeah, I do
schedule and
that.
all that.
Yeah, because it's all of his office is down there, and it has Wednesday. The Hayden stuff we just keep all separate because he travels for all that. He keeps that. Make sure he keeps it in his car so he has it where he needs. But I have all the Wednesday stuff.
Okay, so these are a lot of handwritten records, and the sergeant's gonna go through with it. But is that normally his practice, to keep handwritten records, not electronic records?
We did everything electronic for 10 years in Austin. Big office. And when we got up here, we just decided to keep it easy. We had no employees. We did it.
Are there any electronic files for individual clients that exist?
No, everything that's electronic is all of their contact info in his phones. Everything else is on paper.
You can't get that. Can you show your screen then?
Yes.
So just this morning, we spent a little bit of time and we've gone through and we've basically put all of the clients that he had on Thursday the 12th in order in which he was seen.
Yeah.
The ones that have that yellow highlights.
Yes.
So I've gone through and I found, what, you want to talk about this?
Blues?
No. Okay, so these papers,
Yes.
his patient intake forms, these are basically all of them that we found. And from this stack, the only ones that are on that list are those 3 in yellow.
So that may be because they might be in the big file folder that's in my office. So usually he keeps them separate, but I do know I have an alphabet file and he has kept, he tried to wean through to where he doesn't, because this stuff is not the health info that he needs. The health info is on the other notes.
These.
Yes, and so this stuff is like for legally if we needed to have, so I have another one at home
Okay.
that has A through Z and it has a lot of these in it. And so it may be because he just, sometimes he would try to whittle down ones that maybe weren't as permanent, or he would just, it's less stuff to carry.
But it's not this
No, it's not that one. It's
black case that I'm pointing.
no, it's it's a plastic, the one I have.
So we very much need that.
Okay.
So can I ask you, we'll jump around here a little bit, but since we'll just pump the brakes on that for a second. We'll come back to that.
Sergeant, one of the things that I'm just keeping track of the things we need to do for you, right? For the investigation. You need the patient intake forms, the white patient intake forms from your home office.
These,
For his office.
And specifically, we're looking for these names.
So that's probably why, because almost everyone I see on there, those are very many of the first and older ones. So they may be very well with all of my other
And
stuff.
you'll have to forgive me because I had a tough time reading the handwriting here. Maybe you could help.
Yeah.
Eldora.
That's Eldora Gatchel, who's right there at the very top.
Did we get the spelling?
No, so that's actually Eldora.
She's gonna help you with the spelling.
Yeah, Eldora at the top, that's one word, and it's actually Gatchel. And she's the last one who saw him before he was shot. Yeah, okay, you knew that.
No,
Now,
Oh.
we're assuming that that's.
No, I know that to be a fact.
Okay, how is it that you know that?
Well, for one, I called him at like 6:30, 6:40, and he said, can I call you right back? I heard two voices in the background because I heard him talking. And so I said, oh, are you still patient? He said, I run a little late, so can I call you right back? So,
what voices in the background? Were they male voices or female voices?
I didn't remember, but I can tell you how I know who it was, because then Eldora called me 2 days ago. She texted and said, please call me. I heard a rumor and surely it's not true. So when I called her back, of course, she was mortified and she said, I was the last one to see him. And I said, what time were you there? And she said, I was there at like 6:40, 6:45. And she said, it was me and my husband. And she said,
What's Eldora's husband's name?
I actually forget. I've talked with her so many times. I've only talked to her husband once, so I don't remember that.
Go ahead.
Anyway, she had said that she had just left him like 15, and I said, oh, I actually said, are you guys the ones that were in the background when I called? And she said, yes, you called. And he said, can I give you a call right back?
Okay.
So I know it was them. Now I brought that up to one of the, and they said that they had interviewed her, I think.
We have people going right now today to interview her.
Oh, today?
Yes.
Somebody told me they'd already interviewed her.
We will do 2 or 3 interviews. So that may very well have occurred that night, but I don't know.
You have to understand there's the,
5 different divisions.
there's the Bonners Ferry Police Department, the Boundary County Sheriff's Department, us, the FBI Violent Crime Task Force. We all have a hand in this. ISP is sort of leading this thing, but initially when this first happened, Bonners Ferry and Boundary County were out actively talking to people and making phone calls and trying to track down leads. So we were basically redoing all of that ourselves to make sure it's.
Oh, I see.
You have the lead in the investigation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there might be another agency involved in the thing. We'll ask other agencies, the FBI, the DEA, because we're going to use their federal resources to do a lot of things.
Border Patrol.
Oh yeah, and we've used Kootenai County dogs. We had dogs up there. We had a lot of manpower up there.
Okay.
But Sergeant is the lead, and the Idaho State Police is the lead agency at this point.
Okay.
It's not going to go anywhere else. It's going to be with us probably 99% of the time.
Okay. And I can tell you that is Lowell Graber, VER.
Where?
Sorry, just looking at that.
Where's that?
Instead of greater, it's
Lowell
Graber.
Graber.
Where's that?
1545.
Yes, it's GRABER.
Okay, who's this? Paul Jacobs?
Paul Jacobson?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
noticed he was here. Here?
Yeah.
Who's that?
I don't know.
Doesn't ring a bell.
No. But he has a lot of patients that I don't know. A lot of them.
Has your husband ever talked about Paul Jacobs?
No.
And we don't have a paper on Paul Jacobs, and we need to talk to him, so that's another reason why we need to.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point then.
So since we're talking about names and we're spelling names up here,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask on the prices here.
Yes.
We have listed and we have noted here, in some of his notes, that $50, $250, $100.
So he charges $50 an adjustment, and then many times people will pay him for 5 adjustments.
So they'll go ahead and say,
Yeah.
here's
So
5
they'll say,
adjustments, I'll see
yes,
you
and
next
he'll
week.
put it on his record, and then that they don't have to pay every time. Other than
Okay. How does he keep track of that in here?
he has it on, not in here. He always keeps track of who owes him,
Is it in the black book?
but it should be in, remember even asking, he's like, oh, I got checked. You didn't see any like little travel cards.
It's just some
They, like they would keep track of
spelling might be a little off.
on these, like, it's not anything on these. There's nothing on any
I
on
was
those
hoping you'd
either,
help
so.
us.
Well, now I'm trying to think because I haven't been doing it now for quite a while.
So here's one,
Yeah, so
Nelson
usually,
Comer Chief.
yeah, pay $250, $250.
So that's how it keeps track.
Yeah,
Got
and he knows his system
Got it.
and he knows whether or not to pay him or not.
What is this?
Those
Black pouch.
I've asked him to always keep receipts. I'm a receipt Nazi. And so those are deposits for like years. I don't even know how long. I just didn't want him to throw them away and he just said he would keep them for me.
So we also noted that cash,
Yes, he
And
does
then-
cash and he does credit cards.
and he has a phone specifically set up to do credit cards.
Yeah, he has a personal phone and he has a business phone. Just because
How far does the credit card reader go back? Do you know?
I don't know, but everything goes through Pay Anywhere, so I could surely get files from them. I would think as far back as
Pay
you need
Anywhere?
to. It's called Pay Anywhere. That's the app.
Okay.
Request for.
We're gonna probably need to look at that portion of it, unless we find a name that we're really interested in, then we'll focus on that. But let's go back to the here. So, you don't think it's unusual that he has blank spaces in here, and some are 250 and some are 100?
Not at all, because the blank spaces just means he had room for a patient. Sometimes he also gives patients, like he has some elderly women and he just knows it's going to take longer than 15 minutes. So he'll just keep it blank. It's why he likes doing his own schedule because he knew how long it would take people. Some people just take longer than others. And then he many times would have prepays.
Okay.
And that's why you'll see they all make sense with the $50.
Right, I bet that.
for interest.
But some of these people are paying forward, is that what you're telling me?
Paying forward. They're all paying. Not all of them. There are sometimes that people just couldn't pay. And so he just saw them anyway.
Okay.
And then they would, maybe pay him some money to make up for it, or sometimes they just couldn't.
Do you know how many patients we might be looking at here that he had in Bonner's Ferry?
I don't. I know he knows hundreds of people. I don't know how many are current. He's seen hundreds over the years. I don't know how many, he hasn't seen in 2 years. I know that my husband has a high retention rate of patients. There are many patients who have seen him the entire 7 years. In Austin, he had people who saw him for 10 years straight. Many of them. But I don't know, current. I don't even know what current means, monthly.
So, and I know that you're answering that, but I'm gonna ask it this way. Are we looking at 25? Are we looking at 50? Are we
Okay.
looking at 100?
So the average for him was to see anywhere from 20 to 25 patients a day,
Okay.
depending on whether that was a heavy day or light. And sometimes patients would see him 2 times a week. Sometimes they would see him once a month. So when you throw that into the equation, it's hard to know how many he actually has.
Okay.
Because I don't know how often they're seeing him right now.
How is it scheduled? Do they call him directly?
They text him or call him.
Okay. He's got a phone. The bathroom is directly across the hallway. I'm gonna stop the tape.
Okay.
Tape stop for break. By my watch, it is 14.
Okay, this is the last recording timed out, so this is a new recording. We're back on the record, same group of people. March 16th, 2020, it's now 3:24 p.m. Regarding the number of clients, we kind of touched on that a little bit. You said he had between 20 and 25 clients a day, and they would see him as often as once a week? or?
Sometimes twice a week, if they were especially newer or they had problems.
Okay.
And,
So most of them at least once a month?
yeah, well, sometimes they wouldn't see him. I don't know about his Bonnersberry. You know, some people would come back after 3 months. Sometimes they'd only see him when they had an injury. Sometimes they only, it depended on whether they were a wellness patient or whether they just came in to see him as whenever they had an issue.
So we're probably talking a total of somewhere like 100 active patients where really it was more like 50 that were like regulars. Is that fair?
Yeah, probably. Like 50 to 75.
Would he take a walk-in if he had a gap of an hour or a half hour?
Yes.
He would take a walk-in?
If somebody would, I don't know that he hardly ever had anybody just walking, because almost everybody he saw was referral based. And so they always text him and say, oh yeah, I have it open, come on in.
What types of services did he provide? You mentioned upper cervical earlier, and that was sort of a specialty. Could you explain what that is to us?
Upper cervical is an adjustment of the atlas rather than just the spine. Usually,
What does that mean?
so the atlas is your very top part of your spine. It's kind of like instead of you have your spinal column, all the vertebrae, your atlas is at the very top that it sets on your skull. And upper cervical has the mindset that if your atlas is aligned, then the rest of your body will align itself. Even though he did upper cervical, he actually knew 7 and was trained in 7 different techniques. There was drastic, there was lots of them. So he actually treated the whole body. So he didn't just adjust your atlas. He would actually adjust, but he still did most of the same technique. Unless somebody had specific problems, and then, he would, like, sometimes I remember even a patient that gotten hurt, couldn't really lay down, so he knows how to adjust him sitting up. Things like that. But it is just an extra. Usually upper cervical has to do with x-rays, which is why he did a lot with the other 2 Scots, is because they have a very good system, x-rays, and they analyze the x-rays down to a very, very minute. I mean, they know it down to the smallest exact adjustments that a lot of upper cervicals can't do. You have to really go through training for it.
Where are the x-rays?
So he did not do x-rays when he was in Bonnersberry.
Oh.
So even though he knew how to do the upper cervical adjustments, he had most of those down here, or if people had x-rays, he would analyze them. Like sometimes they go to the hospital or they go to get x-rays other places. He analyze their x-rays. He probably has tons of x-rays in those.
So is there
Some at our house, some at
is there one treatment more than another that he generally would have been providing to these patients in Bonnersberry?
for sure.
Okay, what would that have been?
It would have just been a full body, and it's called, trying to think, where's his card? So, did you find one of his business cards? It has all 3 of them on the back, I think. Orthosomology, it's
I'll look in this envelope. I found more of these.
Oh, good. I can figure out how to do that. I know it, I just tried to.
That's if you can just describe what it is he's doing.
Yeah.
For them.
Sure. So he would either start, he would lay them either on the front or on the back, and then he would just start either with their neck, if they're on their back, he would adjust their neck. He would also adjust, if they have problems on their arms, but mostly he would always check the leg lengths to see if they're having hip problems. And then after he did all that, he would flip them over and he would go ahead and go down the spine. He would do the hips, same thing. If they had any leg problems, he would again check the leg lengths. So he just started at the top and would move down, or he'd start at the bottom and move up. It was
So it's a full body adjustment, if you will, or
Yes.
that term is used?
I don't, it's not really a term, but I guess you're asking what he does. It's just called an adjustment for subluxations. Yeah.
So, is there anything? Do people that come to him ever get upset with him for any reason?
I don't know anybody that was upsetting him. I would even ask him on a regular basis because I'm much better administratively of being, and there would be times I'd be like, somebody had texted him and he's like, oh yeah, I got to get back to him, and that would be a day later for him. So I would always ask him, is everybody okay? Nobody's upset? Because I'm always worried somebody's going to be upset because he didn't reply. But I wouldn't ask for a certain reason. I would just always, everybody's okay. And he has never.
As far as him, a person not getting the result that they wanted, or thinking they paid for a service they didn't really get, or becoming injured, or thinking they're getting worse because of a treatment or something like that.
Never had that. The only time I've ever had of a person who was upset of him in Bonners Ferry was, I don't know if he went to the Mennonite church, I don't know what it is, and I remember him showing me the text, was because his kids, he paid for him and his kids, or maybe he couldn't pay for them all. I don't remember what the situation, I don't even know that I remember him telling me, but I know it was a man and his kids, and Brian had went ahead to, for payment, and he had texted him later that day, and the text, he was very mad, because he was like, as a Christian man, how can you be accepting $50 per person? Our treasures are laid up in heaven. Why in the world do you need more money? Like, it was really, we thought, inappropriate. So I remember the discussion very clearly, because I looked at Brian and I said, you need to rise above, and he doesn't know that you've paid hundreds of thousands in school loans and this and that and the other. And I was like, all you need to say is, I'm sorry that bothers you. Please feel free to see another chiropractor. And he stopped. We didn't see him anymore. And I remember sitting there with him, helping him form that reply. And the guy never replied. And he came back about 6 months later because he went to the other chiropractor who could not help him. And then he continued to seek care of him. He actually apologized. He did say, Brian told me he apologized.
Do you remember that guy's name?
I don't. And when I was thinking about it last night, the only two people I could think of was Scott Crawford and this one man.
What about this Paul Jacobson?
I could not possibly. I just remember when he told me it was a no-name face to me because I don't know. But he was upset because he just thought Brian was charging too much.
But he left and came back.
He did. I do remember him telling me that he came back and apologized and was continuing care because he really needed Brian's care.
Did Brian discuss with you his clients and problems they were having, or things they would talk to him about, or just, things he found interesting or something like that?
If it was something weird or odd, like, he would tell me if, especially if it was somebody I knew, that he'd be like, they just found out they had cancer, but he would never tell me any health issues, not because they're all seem to be the same.
If a client would have been angry with him for something and he would have, had an unpleasant conversation, would you expect that he would talk to you about that experience or no?
I expect that he would totally tell me about the experience if he had the cognizance to remember to. And the only reason I say that is because we had many seasons. We have 4 children. There are so many, especially with him gone almost 4 days a week. There were times that there would be a conversation that would come up and I'd say, oh my goodness, this happened to so-and-so. Why didn't you tell me? Like, oh, totally. Like, there was so much that he did apart from me.
Yeah.
That if he told me everything, we were sometimes passing the night. I couldn't even tell him things about my kids that I wanted to. So I don't ever think in my gut, like anytime I would ask a question or I would find out about something, he would always answer it completely fully. I did never feel like he was ever not telling me something.
On Thursday, you called him and you overheard the voices that you later identified as Eldora and her husband.
Yeah.
What time was that phone call?
I can tell you exactly. I think it was 6:40, but
I mean, while you're looking at it, these names that are written in on these 15-minute increments,
Yeah.
is that accurate? If you see a line at 5 p.m., would you expect this person came in at 5 p.m.? Okay.
I mean, there's once in a while he would be late just because somebody would be late and it would make his day late. But because like this day like this, his biggest thing would be to stay on time, because if he's not, then everything goes to
Right.
the pot.
Right.
By the time he gets to here, he's got lots of people waiting. So he was always very adamant trying to stay on. Now, you do need to know, I know this sounds so trite, you can ask his patients. It was like Brian was a counselor as well. He had people tell him everything. He had women cry on him. It was, his policy was to always leave the door open. The shades were always drawn for privacy for them, but at least in the way that he had his table, it was to where the door was open, but you couldn't see the adjustments. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's the way we always ran it in Austin, even when, occasionally I would ask here, and he's like, oh yeah, just for that whole, make sure that when patients were coming in, that he was trying to be above board. I don't know why I just told you that.
That's any information is good. It helps us understand a more complete picture of who your husband was and how he operated. So don't feel bad about sharing things that you think are unimportant.
Do you ever get complaints?
About what?
I was in there with a younger female. Mother may complain, father may complain. And a lot of times men will come with their wives for doctor visits. Anything? Something like that.
You can even go on the ISP. I don't know if you guys have seen the thing that you posted, and so many of the patients have commented on your thing. And it's just a ton of people.
You're talking about the Bonners Ferry PD
Yeah,
Facebook page?
Bonners Ferry PD, and it was, all of them were his patients saying nothing but amazing things about him. There was nobody on there. There was one person who said, who would do this to a crippled guy? Somebody else was like, who would do this, period, But there was one weird reply on that. And now I'll have to go back, because I remember looking at it thinking, who was that and why would he say that? I'll have to look back on that.
How did he injure himself?
He was at his Sandpoint office. That time when we had that big ice, he walked out of the Sandpoint office and slipped and fell. And he turned his ankle and he snapped it in 3 places. So he had to have surgery and was off of it for,
I just sketched a very brief, very rudimentary, not accurate to scale at all sketch of his office, and I'm showing it to Jennifer. Is this generally the way that he leaves his office? This is the leather-covered stool.
Yeah.
His desk is really too close to this wall to really work behind it.
Yeah.
And then this exam table is sort of at an angle. Is that normal?
Yes, except that sometimes he would have it to where it was like a little bit more this way.
Okay.
And it depends to make sure that he just needed room around this.
You're describing it being more parallel with the desk
Yes.
rather than at an angle the way it is.
Right.
Okay.
So like to where the door would be here and it would be like this. Yeah. No, I think that's fine.
And this was just a small bookcase, and there was some books, and then there was some sort of a chiropractic tool that was plugged into the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had another device in his pocket that was like a little
Activator?
T-handled. Yeah. Do those two things kind of do the same thing?
2 different places of the body, but yes.
Okay.
One's for the neck atlas, one's for just the body.
And a couple folding chairs, and I don't remember whether this table was round or square, but it was the table in the corner.
Yeah.
Those are all normally all in there that way.
Yeah.
So since we're doing the office thing, so he has the waiting room. There's a little hallway next to that, and then there's a door that goes into another, I say hallway,
Yes.
call it vestibule if you want.
Yes.
And then it goes in, that's where the bathrooms are. So that was all leased, that's all rented, that space.
Right.
On the other side of that hallway is an old, unused dentist's office. We had none of that.
No.
We didn't control any of that.
He was there while the dentist was there. I think the dentist just left, I don't know, a year ago or so.
Uh-huh.
But no, he didn't use anything except for his office and the waiting room. And he would go to the bathroom, or patients would go to the bathroom.
So the patients had access to that too. Okay.
And he would, lock both of those doors before he left, but he had them open when the patients were there.
Okay.
So what time was the phone call the first phone call where you heard the voices in the background?
So March 12th. 12th, right? Yes. Okay, so the first time I called Brian was at 6:42 exactly. And we talked 6:42, we talked for 13 seconds.
Did you talk or did you just listen to?
No, we talked because and that's when I knew it's always fast if he has a patient, because I just say, are you still a patient? He says, yes. I'm sorry, I'm running a little late. Can I call you right back? Yes, fine.
Got it.
That's a little late. And that's how I could hardly hear, but I heard talking behind, so I knew that there was somebody there, and somebody wouldn't have been talking if he wasn't, if somebody else wasn't there with them. So in my brain, I knew two people were there.
So at 6:42,
yeah.
That was when you later confirmed that was Eldora.
Yes.
What's her last name?
Eldora Gatchel.
Gatchel and her husband,
yes.
Which you don't recall his name at this point.
No.
Okay. And then he called you back, or what was the next?
Yep.
And what time did he call you back?
He called me back at 7:17. And we talked for a total of 9 minutes and 15 seconds.
7:17, and this was 9 minutes and how many seconds?
Oops.
9 minutes, 15 seconds.
Yes. And I would say it was probably, we talked for 9 minutes. We were starting to kind of round down, like he needed to go eat. And it was that last 15 seconds, because even after he fell on the phone, it didn't go dead. I didn't hear a thump. I didn't hear, like, it literally, even when I think back to the fact that I'm thinking, how did I not hear a gunshot? I just heard him yell. He yelled twice. We were kind of winding down, and all of a sudden, it was like his phone was like this, and all of a sudden, it was like, my gosh. And then I was like, what? And he said, he said, something just hit me. And he said it twice, something just hit me. And I go, what do you mean? And that's when all of a sudden, I could hear it, even in his voice, because it was kind of this, something just hit me. And for some reason, I'm thinking, like, something fell off the ceiling or something. I'm thinking, what do you mean something just hit you? He said, I think somebody just shot me through the window. And so that must have been when he turned around. And my next brain, it just immediately went to where? Where did it hit you? And that's when he said, I think it's in my side. And then the phone went dead. And I said, Brian, started yelling, trying to get him to pick up. And I didn't hear a shot. I didn't hear him fall. I didn't hear the phone fall. I just literally went like black. It just went black. And so my brain was, I didn't want to hang up just in case he picked up. But then I was so afraid that since he wasn't picking up, I better call 911. So I have to stop connection with him in order to get somebody else on the phone.
What time did you call 911?
It was 3 seconds. It was, it doesn't show on my phone my 911.
Does it say emergency on it?
No, it doesn't say anything. Literally has 6:42. Brian tried calling. And then 7:32, and I called you. I called Papa. And if a voluntary dispatch calls me, 911 house line. It was on this. I did everything on this. There's no 911 call on here.
And Bonner's Ferry called you at?
I think it's Bonner's Ferry, the 208. It was at 7:44. I called, or no, maybe I called them. Nope, they called me at 7:44, and all I could get from them was that their dispatch medics are there. And I kept saying, is he alive? Was he hit? Medics are there, and they have people looking for a suspect. I said, so they are there, like he's alive. All I know is medics are there. They wouldn't tell me anything. And then the next time I talked to them, they called me asking for his cell number. I remember saying, why do you need his cell number if you're there with him?
What'd they say?
She just said the sheriff just needs it. She wouldn't tell me if he was alive or dead, and I knew in my heart, if you can't get it from him, it means that he can't speak, or they wouldn't tell me why. They just said they just need your cell number. I thought it was so odd. Medics are there, and the sheriff needs his cell number. But yeah, so 7:42, 6:42, then it happened at 7:32, and I tried calling him back again, and I let it go for like 3 seconds, and then another 3 seconds. It just kept going straight to voicemail, so I knew he was not getting on.
I'd like you to let us download your phone. Are you willing to do that?
Yeah.
Brian, do you want to grab a consent form for her to sign?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go through real quick.
Let's cover something else. Let's see. So problem clients, you're not aware of any problem clients?
I really am not. Some that just took longer than others, but that's the only thing I ever knew about. I would think that combing through his texts would tell you a lot, because he did so much by text with his patients.
Okay. There, all of the devices, the 3 phones, the iPod, and the Amazon tablet, those are all at the FBI right now. They're downloading all those, so we should have that back by the end of the day.
Is that you?
No, it's down. It's in Coeur d'Alene, but not in this building.
So are his phones here?
No.
Were they taken to here?
Yep.
Oh, they were taken from here and then taken to others somewhere else.
Yeah, just down to the FBI office.
Just a little low. I'd like to revisit something that has popped into my mind a couple times, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but something in my memory about, I want to go back to Scott, that Scott ever threatened mine? Because I just remember, I just remember something about him being threatened by Scott. Is there anything that comes to your mind in regards to that?
Before I remember directly, I just remember pushing back to go, you're insane. That I've never heard anybody so unprofessional in what you're expecting of Brian.
Oh, I do recall when you were going through that with Scott that I remember thinking, this is unbelievable that this man is so out of control.
Yeah.
So I just kept rerunning that through my mind these last few days.
Well, I hate to say that was true and have it not be true. It would not surprise me one bit.
When's the last communication that you're aware of that Brian had with Scott?
Years ago. We actually saw him at the airport. If I ever see him, I always just wave and smile as if nothing's wrong. But we saw him at the airport about 2 years ago, and as soon as he saw Brian, he turned and he disappeared. It was so funny. Brian and I were headed out. No, it was a year ago. Exactly a year ago. We were headed to California, and he was walking his daughter, and he saw me out of the corner of his eye, and as we had to turn a corner, and he was saying goodbye to his, sorry, I don't know what the time is, or that's all you need, put in your name.
You print name and then you sign your name.
Oh,
Are
sorry.
you able for the phone? I know that she kind of needs the phone here.
It will take 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And is there a pattern?
No.
A code pattern to it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Brian's didn't have one on his either, did it?
We haven't touched it.
Oh.
Okay, so
He
since
disappeared very quickly.
What's that?
As he saw us. That's all I was saying. He said he disappeared very quickly as soon as he saw us.
so I'm going to tell you this, and then normally I wouldn't tell you this, but I'm going to tell you this, and I'm not trying to get your hopes up or anything, but you may find this out anyway. This Eldora person, she called into the sheriff's office and said, "Hey, you guys need to know that when I was coming in, there was a large, angry, agitated guy coming out." And so the client before her is this Paul Jacobson. I don't know that Paul Jacobson was the large, angry, agitated guy, but I need to get his date of birth so we can figure out who he is, so I can get a photograph of the investigators that are interviewing her today to confirm whether or not that's true, whether or not he was angry and agitated.
Yeah.
So
I wish
if you could,
everything he has is in those files and on his phone. If you could get his phone, you'll get all the info you
okay.
need.
So it's odd to me that he didn't mention that a large agitated guy was in his office earlier
Right.
to you. Yeah, when he talked to you.
Oh, well, that's probably because I was going off about our children. So it was, I mean, all good things, but it was because all these things have been canceled due to coronavirus. So we almost always talk right when he gets down patients and then before we go to bed.
Okay.
And so at that moment, usually it's like, how was your day? Here's what happens with kids. We don't make it very long because he's got to clean up. He wants to eat dinner. He wants sometimes go work out. And then we talk before we go to bed because the kids are already in bed. Then we're able to actually talk. But it was only 9 minutes. We wind down because I was going, this has been canceled. This has been canceled. Now we can't go to bed. I was going off on this stupid coronavirus. And so the fact that he didn't tell me that did not surprise me. It's not like we just would go straight into patient things.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. I was just asking Jennifer, I told her about Eldora talking about the large, angry, agitated guy and the importance of us getting the patient information sheet for this Paul Jacobson so we can ID who he is.
Okay, and that is the person that we're,
That's the person that was on his list before Eldora.
okay.
No, I did.
And sorry, Claire.
No, I'm sorry.
We need to get ID on him so we can get the photo up to Leslie or one of them that are up there so they can, whoever's going to interview her today.
I just got off the phone with Rich.
Yep. Our Rich or Rich Stevens? Our Rich.
Let me talk to you real quick.
Okay, I'm going to put this on pause for a sec.
In my car.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, don't buy them here.
Oh,
Okay, we're back on the record at 3:58 p.m. on March 16th, 2020. Okay, so we were talking. I do want to talk about the two individuals that you advised us to talk about earlier. Those were Lowell Graber and Ed Byler.
they are two of the people in Bonners Ferry that know my husband the best.
Why is that? Are they just long-term loyal clients?
I know Lowell Graper has seen my husband every other week for 7 years. 2 times a month on like clockwork. And he's helped his whole family. He's very close with him. Lowell Graber, everything. We've been to his house, met his family, done the dinner. They would talk about anything and everything. And Ed Byler is another one. They were the two main ones who kept asking him to come up to Bonners Ferry.
Just close friends of his.
Yes.
They're not in business in any way.
No. They're just patients.
Are they both Mennonite church members?
I'll say yes. I don't know if they go to the same church. I'm not sure. I think they're both Mennonites, but
And you say your husband also treated family members of theirs too?
Let her know.
With that, she was like, oh, I don't know what it's about, but you can probably still doing this.
So so let me ask you, going back to the client list for that day, specifically this Paul Jacobson person, do you have any idea who that is? Have you seen the name before?
Yes, I don't really look at his names a lot, but I think it's been on there.
These are a couple of Paul Jacobsons that are in the driver's license database, one from Hayden and one from Naples. Do either one of these guys look familiar to you?
No.
No.
But he saw a lot of patients that I've never seen.
And for the record, I showed her a Paul Allen Jacobson, date of birth 4/27/78, and a Paul Stephen Jacobson, date of birth 9/14/59. So let's move to family. You have 4 children.
Yes.
How old are they and what are their names?
Brenner, Brenner, he is 16. Hudson is 14. Asher is 12. And Aubrey Layton is 11. She just turned 11, I think.
It's Aubrey Layton,
Yes, Leighton. Aubrey's fine.
and she's how old?
She's 11.
All his kids.
Yes.
Either of you married before?
No. I'm assuming. Okay.
How are they doing?
They have their moments. Some better than others.
Any issues in your marriage as far as fidelity goes?
No, none that I am aware of. I have no reason to think so.
Nothing in the past?
No.
It said that if there is stopping, this is correct, that if you turn up some bit of disparaging information, she never believes it. She wants to know the truth about it. So we need to hold back with her.
So let's talk the truth a little bit. When I did a search warrant on his car, he had a half a gallon of vodka in there. Is he drinking?
I saw it. He started drinking last year when he, right before back surgery, he ended up, so he was about 2 years, started having a lot of back pain that he couldn't get fixed because it was congenital. It got worse and worse, so he started drinking. And then it got up to where he had an accident last summer and ended up having spinal surgery, but had to wait weeks. And he started with an internal bleed because of ibuprofen and because he started drinking. Well, I don't know about excessively, but I think it was excessively. Like, he wasn't drinking.
Drinking you deaden the pain?
Yeah, totally just deadened the pain. So after the surgery, he stopped, of course, because he was on medication.
What was the nature of the accident?
We were out, paddleboards? Yes, paddleboarding. He fell off, and he got back on and realized that he was in a lot of pain, but he didn't. He ended up paddling back in, and that was that weekend, and he was going to work at the same office, Bonnersberry, and he was done seeing patients, and he went to turn a corner in that hallway, and he hit the floor, and he was on the floor for like 2 hours. He couldn't move. He couldn't even get to his phone. The ambulance had to come get him, had to take him to Bonner's, hospital. They took him to the Sampling Hospital. It was horrible. He couldn't get surgery for several weeks, so I know that he was drinking at that time. And then, of course, after he had his surgery, which was in August, he was on pain meds and he was out of work and on his back literally for 8 weeks. And so, of course, he was not drinking. I was with him 24/7, so I know he wasn't drinking.
This is August 2019.
Yeah. And probably within the last, it was when he broke his leg. I noticed he started drinking wine more at home. We never had hard liquor in our house. And so I was surprised to see the vodka in the back of his car. At Sandpoint office, he was coming out of the office and he slipped on the ice.
When did that happen?
That happened on, okay, so he's gonna have to wear his boot for 6 weeks and he probably had 2 weeks left, so I would say a month ago. I could get you an exact date, but I'd have to go look at my records. So I did see the vodka and that surprised me. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It sucks.
Could he have been using that as because we noticed, I talked to you before about how it was in the bottles of water on his desk.
Yeah.
Could he have been using that as because he couldn't get a hold of hand sanitizer?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Because right now, with the whole,
Yeah.
they're saying you can use vodka.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Hand
I
sanitizer.
can't imagine who he was. And I shouldn't say that because I don't know, because I didn't actually know he was drinking. And I know he was in a lot of pain, and I get that.
Was he inebriated at home? Did he get drunk at home?
Never,
Not from the kids?
never.
Okay. When you guys go out to dinner, does he drink?
Sometimes not. If he does, it's like one, maybe two.
Hard liquor or wine or beer?
It would be either a glass of wine or it would be sometimes a beer. Usually it was a Long Island iced tea. That was his. If he got something, that's usually what it was. But I've never, when he was with Scott Crawford, I did see him get drunk once. And that's the only time in 20 years, they went to a party and I remember him doing that. But since then, no. I've never seen him drunk.
You guys haven't had fights over this or arguments over this? Or...
Over alcohol?
Yes.
No. I remember I was adamant that he didn't drink anything after his surgery because he was on pain meds. But he was always very compliant with it. Never, he'd say, okay, I'll have one. I'm fine. So, no. I mean, I'd have a disagreement, say, I want you to do that. But he'd always, it was never a drag out to where he would disagree. You know what I mean?
You didn't leave the house
No.
angry and not show up again?
Oh, no.
Nothing like that?
No. I can't think of any time that he's done that.
Yes, sir.
Due to the amount of data on your phone,
Yeah.
it is going to take a little bit longer. I think there's
What?
there's over 43,000 MMSs, text messages.
Oh.
Oh, look at a whole lot.
So it will take a minute.
And you need
I want to know if that's okay, because you had mentioned needing your phone.
No.
I just want to make sure that
It's like a minute, but what is
realistically, it may take an hour,
Okay.
maybe an hour.
Are you okay?
Oh, don't give me that look. Don't. Dang it, Ryan.
To come in here and say
It
that.
hurts me, Ryan.
But is it if we leave in advance of it being ready, are you okay if, say, I come back and pick it up on your behalf?
Absolutely.
And are you okay, by the way, just while I'm asking the question, you asked for the inpatient forms for these 20 some odd folks.
I'd like everyone she can get her hands on.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Are you okay for the chain of custody or anything? Can I bring it? Or is it-
Absolutely. Doesn't matter a bit to me.
Do you have a problem with that?
No.
Then we don't have a problem.
Okay, so alcohol we covered. How about illegal drug use? Any history of the illegal drug use?
I have never, ever seen, heard, no, he has never had illegal drugs that I'm aware
How about you?
of. No.
So this is sort of a weird vein here, but any problems with the kids? any recent issues with kids or their friends or anybody that is in your environment that may have a grudge against him because he did something or said something or made somebody feel bad or hurt somebody's feelings or yelled at a kid or?
No, kids are they get on with everybody. We happy. I had to rack my brain over who would be upset by him or us. I even sat there and thought, well, are we safe? Like, should I be closing my blinds? Should I, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I'm thinking, until we find a motive, is it us? Is it my family? So I started thinking through that, like, who would be upset at our family? And I cannot think of anybody who's upset at our family. I know that sounds, it sounds like it's not possible, but
Political affiliations. Is he a member of Elks, Moose Lodge,
no,
anything like that? KKK,
no.
nothing like that.
We are affiliated with nothing. No, my husband was a Christian. He did play
Did you go to church?
part of the city church in Coeur d'Alene. He usually often played worship music in the office, or he would play and just or whatever. But I know that many, if not all of his patients knew he was a Christian. He had a lot of discussions with people about that.
How long have you been going to Heart of the City Church?
We moved here in 2012, so 2014, so I'd say 6 years.
How often do you attend church services?
Here, there, often, several times around.
Your kids go to
Oh, yes.
Sunday school and all that?
Brian plays on the worship team there, plays guitar. My kids, but again,
So you're plugged into your church.
very much so.
Anybody at church? Any issues at church?
None.
I see he has I'm sorry.
Anything happen at church, like somebody getting fired or something to cause hate and discontent, even if you don't think it involved your husband at church? Embezzlement, drugs, infidelity, no scandals, no problems with church.
Is he a dean or belongs to any of the upper
We are part of leadership.
of the leadership?
We are part of the higher staff, but
Okay.
like if there was, I know the church has issues. We don't know all the issues. We don't sit in the staff meetings with every issue. So that would be something you would talk to Jo about.
Who's J.O.?
So Jonathan Owens is who you would definitely want to sit down and talk with, and he'd be able to help you with any of that.
Is he
He's the pastor, the lead pastor of the church, and he is doing the funeral. He'll answer anything for you.
Does your husband, is he involved in counseling members of the church or kids in the church?
Yes, my husband and I are marriage counselors,
Okay.
and we speak at seminars, and we used to teach Sunday school for the kids, but that's been we stopped a couple years ago.
Do you talk with each other do you counsel together as a team or do you counsel
no,
individually?
Well, I counsel individually women, and then we counsel together couples.
At the same time, in the same room?
Yes, we don't ever counsel with just one of us.
Is there a spouse that may be upset, that may be blaming him for ending their marriage through counseling?
I can't imagine that this would be him, but I'll give you his name. So we were counseling a couple this late summer. It was the first time we counseled them. She's a strong Christian, him not so much. It was the very first session. And the next day, she broke off their engagement. Of course, we knew it wasn't our fault.
Stellar counseling.
Or doubts and stuff before that.
Swingers at it.
At least hit a nail in the head.
Why did she break up the engagement?
She had doubts often because he was not a really big spiritual leader, and she needed somebody who would be much more of a leader. They ended. He moved, then they actually started dating again, got back together, and then they ended. And he has moved. She's now moved to Chicago, and he has moved somewhere on the East Coast.
His name is?
trying to remember. We met him once. Her name is Jesse Little. I'll have to let her know that I gave you his name.
Jesse, I.E.
Jesse, yes. And Little, our Little's daughter.
Is her telephone number going to be in your phone?
Yes, it will be. And so will his.
Do you don't remember his name off the top of your head?
If I had my phone, I could tell you.
We'll get that back to you here just quick. So what was the nature of the disagreement that you guys talked about? Was it just that he didn't want
We got
to
along
commit
great.
spiritually?
No, our counseling session went great. Even when we left, we loved him. He was very congenial.
So did Brian talk to him individually?
No. I think we texted him once just to say, praying for you, happy for you, et cetera, but
At any time did he express to you or to Brian or to somebody else that got back to you that he was mad at Brian for some reason?
no. And I even asked Jesse, I was like, does he think this is our fault? Because, we laid down some things that were pretty important, and we knew going into this counseling session where the problems lied and where she was struggling. So we, tried to really talk through some of those. And I think talking through them reinforced to her the problem and that she didn't have peace with it and was going to. And so Jesse always told us this, no, this was not you at all. This was just, our counseling was her last ditch effort to try to make it work. And she realized in that counseling session, I don't think this is going to work.
Was there abuse involved? Was there suspicion
No.
of abuse?
No, not at all. He was very nice, but he really didn't. He was actually supposed to give my son some voice lessons. And I think that, and I can't promise whether Brian texted him afterwards, but we never heard from him, which I did think was kind of odd because he seemed pretty professional and, just a genuine good guy. I would have thought, hey, thanks.
How old? Approximately?
28.
What do you do for a living?
He was an actor.
Okay.
Sports.
Well, yeah.
Does your husband, did he coach baseball, football, soccer, church?
Coach
league?
soccer.
Before we move away from church, does he counsel kids at church?
No.
He doesn't counsel kids?
No.
No youth camp?
No.
Okay. So go back to sports.
Yes. So he used to coach soccer for many years. He hasn't for the last, I'd say 2 to 3 years. He's been too busy. But he has coached soccer at many seasons.
At what age level?
From 4 years old all the way up to 15, 14.
Any problems there?
No, great coach. We've never had any parent upset. It was just city league, so it wasn't like it was that intense. Yeah.
No other sports like?
No, everything else.
So Croc Center, you belong to the Croc Center? You both belong to the Croc Center? Work out at the Croc Center? Anything there?
No. The only thing, and I think I told Ken this, I don't think I told this to Mike, and I'm sure you guys have already crossed this, is that he was very regular to Mike's gym up in Montessori. So if he was not on the phone with me or eating or cleaning up, he would go to Mike's gym often, and he had a key for that office for 24/7. Like, he always liked to wait until the masses had left. So he would go to work out at like 9 at night, and this was very, very regular. And I know that they have cameras all over in there, so if there was anything that happened, I always sent him with dinner. He never went out to eat because everything closes down so early anyways by the time he's done. So he would either go to Super One to get food. But the only other place he ever went to regularly was that gym. And of course, there's a lot of testosterone in that gym.
Mike's gym.
Mike's gym, it's up on that south part of Bonner's Ferry. You know what I'm talking about, the highway that takes you over to Troy Libby. Yeah.
North, right?
Yeah.
North of town.
Yeah.
Short of the gas station.
Yes, right short of the gas station too, right?
Okay.
But
Well,
Mike would be another good person for you to talk to.
What's Mike's last name?
I don't remember, but he's the owner of the gym, and he is a patient of Brian's. And Brian sees him and his wife. Big, like the Rock. I mean, just the So you wouldn't miss him. You just go there and ask for Mike, they'll know exactly what that's from.
So they were trading, he could go to the gym and he'd work
He
on it.
did, yeah. And he just had a key fob that he could go in any time.
So, no membership to any clubs, no other groups you guys associate with.
The church and the croc.
Church and club.
What's the extent of it?
Money issues. Did you guys have? Do you have any money issues that is that an issue at all for you guys?
Well, we lived month to month for the most part. We had saved up. We were doing really well until he had his back surgery, and then that kind of all went flat. But Lord's been very good. We've always been able to pay our bills. We have no more than we need, but no less than we need.
Do you work?
No,
Do you
I
work
did.
part-time?
I worked for Laura Little for about half a year, and that's Jesse Little's mom. Laura Little owns Little Theatricals, Laura Little Theatricals here in town. And it was just me and two other ladies.
And what did you do for them?
I just did lots of administrative. I would help her on sets. I would help her. She was actually putting on a show off Broadway that I helped her put together that is now up and going. So we did a lot of stuff with New York. That's the one that this was her right hand man doing anything that needs to be done with the actors, whatever that entails.
What is the name of her company?
Laura Little Theatricals.
Where was that out of?
That is out of Expressions in Post Falls. Expressions office in Post Falls. That's where she's still there.
What is Expressions?
Expressions a dance studio.
Where's that located physically? Is it 123? Okay, right.
So it's on Highway 41,
Okay.
south of Pole Line. On the right hand side.
On
It's
the
right
west,
off
the west side of the road.
on the west side of the road.
Sort of newer structure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big brown right next to that big
It's
housing
like
development.
It's like a cut out of a dancer on the outside of the building.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Gambling issues.
No, his one's never gambled unless we went to Vegas, and he did well. He never gambled very much. He'd be thrilled if we came away with $100.
Other friends locally in the church that we should talk to?
For what reason are you wanting? And I'll tell you.
Someone that he may have confided into something that would pertain to his death. Just people, some close friend that he might have told them that you don't know about.
Yeah, I can tell you, Spencer Van Lane is who he spent the evening with the night before.
Spencer who?
Van Lane,
P-A-N.
Lindt. And
How does he know Spencer?
Amber is the one who works at the church. Spencer is her husband, and we are just all very close friends. Spencer is part of our Bible study group, and they are just kindred spirits. The other one that I would definitely talk to would be Dan Rodewald.
Can you spell that for me?
RH, or just Rodewald.
And why Dan?
He plays bass guitar, so they would actually make music together. Like
What instrument did your husband play?
guitar.
He played for the church? They played together for the church?
Yes. And the other one that he played with, that was his third best friend here in town, was Joshua Sprague. And he played drums. And those four men together did everything together. Played we're all from the church. And we did a lot together. They are definitely the three men who know me best here.
You emphasize the word men. Are there women that know him too that we should talk to, or no?
No, we just didn't hang with women, period.
What types of activities would he do?
Ryan just didn't hang with women.
He'd go over to dance and do music. Josh is into music. A lot of times Josh will go to Starbucks and literally sit and listen to music. The only other thing, like the night before, every once in a while they would go down to, we live in town. What's the place right down the way from our house, right off the prairie? The golf place. Yeah, they go to Caddyshack and they'd say that's what they did the night before he died. Spencer and Joshua, Ryan, and I know that he told me they had a really good talk. They just sat there and talked about their women.
VanLueven is eating it up.
Um,
VanLueven, what a fucking fuck.
did you have a life insurance policy on your husband?
I did.
How much is it for?
It was $4 million.
4 million?
1 million.
1 million. And when was that taken out?
2016.
Who's that through?
Mutual of Omaha.
And whose idea was it to do that?
Both of ours, we kept saying we wanted to do it, and it was actually Joshua's friend. It was like, it was ridiculous. We just kept thinking we'd never need it. And so we just
Joshua
finally
Sprague
decided
saves the day.
together we would do it.
Did you get one for you too?
No, it didn't work, and I knew that if he lost me, it wasn't worth anything. And I know that that's not true. I know, but he was a lot more valuable than I really, in the scheme of making sure that our kids were okay. Well, emotionally, that's true. I just, yeah.
I'm telling you, I have a policy on my life. It's going to be very expensive to replace her.
Well, it's amazing actually that we even have one, because we went without one forever because we just thought we don't need one. It wasn't until Josh just kept saying you need to get one.
Okay.
I'm thinking that we're gonna give you a receipt, have a receipt, sign a receipt for the cash, okay? And some of those receipts, some of this paperwork, whatever.
Okay.
Let's keep all the receipts.
Okay, well,
For now.
then we're gonna give you the money.
Yeah.
Okay, but I need you to sign a receipt for it, so I'll have one made. And then everything else we're gonna duplicate, and then we'll get back to you when we can. It won't be tomorrow.
That's okay.
Okay.
I don't think I need
I'll have a
one.
receipt.
If you need anything, just call me and we can at the very least get a copy for you.
Yeah, none of that stuff is stuff that I need though from, is that like a chiropractic? I just know that we just dealt with his license, and I just want to make sure that's not something that's time sensitive. I think it's just me.
And I have no idea what's in this envelope.
Oh, I need to pay, that's a bill that needs to be paid that he couldn't drop off.
If you want to go through this and see what there is,
But I'm-
and if there's things you need, then we can make copies of them.
Okay.
And after we go through everything, we can potentially give everything back to you.
Well, I know it's in here, so it,
Go ahead, open it up,
sure.
if you would for us.
Yeah, it's just a check for his sampling office.
Since it hasn't got to the US mail, I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah. I'm the one who wrote it. It's just a check that goes for his rent that was to be dropped off in sampling.
Let's just make a copy of it and check. Do you want to go through, is this the book you're interested in as far as current activity?
Yes, that's the stuff that, like, if he's meeting me, I just do all the business side of it.
Why don't you go-
All of his business stuff is in this.
Why don't you go through that and see if there's anything that you need copies of, and we can make those for you right now.
That'd be great. Thank you. So these are all things that have to do with patient's insurance. I mean, eventually they're gonna need to be dealt with just because they're waiting for their policies and stuff.
make copies of those and we can give you the originals.
Okay, this,
We have a box full of documents here that came, some on his desk, some from in his desk, some from containers under his desk. I mean, so I don't know if any of this is important to you.
if it's older,
If you would
it's,
like to look through this bag by bag,
okay,
you're welcome to.
I can do that afterwards.
I'm just gonna make copies of this and I'm gonna give you these. Okay?
Do you have any idea of how long you're going to have all this? Are we talking weeks, we're talking months?
If you need it,
Well,
we can, so we have when you do a search warrant, you go to the court and you get an order preserving property. And so the court basically says, I order you to go seize this if you find it at this place. And then after you seize it, we come back to the court and we said, court, we found these objects, that we seized. And the court then issues an order for us to preserve the property at our evidence area. So we kind of have to go back to the court and say, okay, court, we'd like to give these things away now, and have the court agree to let us do that.
so my only concern is that I don't know what I don't know. And some of those things are a lot of things that patients give to him.
Sure.
And he either takes care of them
Right.
or he passes them on. And so some of them he's taking care of when it comes to reports or things that have to be dealt with for patients to be paid. I don't know
That's why-
what is needed, and
That's why if you'd like to go through this paperwork right now, we can do it. We can
okay,
see if
I'll
there's
just do
anything.
that for that, if that's okay. I think so. It might be a lengthy process for me to sit
So
and
I
go
was
through all
gonna
that.
ask, is it possible to do it perhaps next week?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Whenever, I think
that's
I need to
perfect.
get her through the
Yeah,
we-
that's
the
perfect.
funeral and maybe we
Yeah.
can circle back. to it.
Absolutely. Whenever it's convenient for you is fine.
Thank you. Okay.
Family. What about his family? Does he have, you're his brother?
I'm one of his two brothers, right?
Okay, and what's, how long have you guys been married?
21 years this June. 20 and a half.
Okay, so Jonathan, brother, what's the name of the other brother?
Chad, Michael, Drake. He's got a sister named Ruth Ann Taylor.
Okay, and you live in Bavaria,
In Germany,
in Germany, and what do you do?
military officer.
Army, Air Force? What is your rank?
Colonel.
One of the guys that is on my team is in the reserves. He just got back from a year-long deployment to Guantanamo, and he was promoted to major while he was down there. So I was pretty excited about that. And what about Chad? What's he do and where's he live?
He's the president of a Nodak Oil Field Services, which is an oil field services company that does services for North Dakota, the Bakken Shale field out there, northwest North Dakota.
Is that where he lives? Is in North Dakota?
He lives in South Carolina. He's in the process of selling the company, or at least attempting to. Divorced him, he pulled away from the presidency a little bit to demonstrate that the company can run on its own. So it's just,
And what about your sister?
the sister is a wife and homemaker, homeschooler in Minnesota.
And who's the oldest?
My sister. And
How old is she?
She is 1973.
46.
Yep.
And then how about Chad?
He's the youngest, 1979.
39.
Yeah, about 40 now. Right?
And you were born in 77, so you're 41, 42,
40.
40?
Let me, hold on. I gotta do that. 43. February.
I'm 44, and I was born in 75.
So I'm 1977, 43. What did I say?
Is that one thing?
Okay, 43.
So are your parents still living?
Yeah.
And what are their names?
Gerald, Drake, Kathy Drake,
Gerald with a G?
yeah.
Gerald Drake. And Kathy Drake?
Kathy Drake, they're still married. They live in Tomball, Texas, a suburb of Houston.
Tomball.
Yeah, spelled as it sounds. Tompal.
Okay. Does Brian regularly communicate with you guys, or?
I think he, not as much as, no, not terribly regularly. So.
Do you think that he would confide in Chad or Ruth?
I think he
Things
spoke
going
with
on?
Chad. He spoke with Chad the most. They had a regular Thursday night phone call that he confided the most in.
Do you have their telephone numbers that I could get?
Chad is actually coming into town today.
Okay.
And he'll be here through, if you want, I'm
Yeah.
sure he would be willing to sit down with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be a brief conversation, but I just like to know if he said anything that may be relevant to
Do
this.
you want a phone conversation or do you see him?
I was just planning on having a phone conversation anyway, but yeah, so it doesn't
I can get I've got it.
hurt to ask the questions. Like, I assume if you were aware of any information, you would have shared it by now, but are
I am
officially
not-
asking,
I-
do you
I
know
do
of any
not
problems
have
they may have had?
Any additional information that, and certainly my parents would not, he did not speak with them very frequently, and then my sister, all of it for us. Great. Chad's number is 701-509-7308.
701 509. Yep.
7308.
Okay.
The other one I would give a call to would be my brother-in-law. He had another one that they had a lot of lengthy conversations.
Jennifer, what's your maiden name?
Miller,
Where are you from originally?
Montana,
Where in Montana?
Kalispell. And that's where he lives now.
What was his name?
Matt Zanaki.
And he's your brother-in-law. He's
Yes, my sister's husband,
sister's husband. What's your sister's name?
Emily. Zanaki is Zemacke.
They live in Kalispell.
Yes.
And your husband communicates with him sometimes? Is that why?
Yes. They would come over and they'd spend a lot of evenings doing a lot of shopping and going trips together.
So this is a receipt for $600 and miscellaneous documents. I'm just gonna keep handing you documents.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm gonna make a copy of this. We'll hang on to the original and I will give you a copy.
Thank you.
Oh, good Lord, really?
A big phone is about 12,000. This is 43.
Mine's really a lot in.
Do you have, I imagine you do use a lot of emojis or
My sister sends me a lot of emojis.
gifs of that nature?
Gifts, that's what they do. As soon as you said that, I thought, oh my goodness, I love it. A lot of gifts.
Ryan is saying that the current.
Oh my
Sorry
goodness.
Ryan's saying the current schedule right now is 5 hours.
And you really need all this?
We really don't need all that, but we don't know what we don't know what we don't know. So we'd like to have all the text messages preserved and all the phone calls preserved. So if anything comes up, we can go back and look and say what happened on this date at this time. That's why
I've
we
got all the
work on
text messages, but the MMS is what's taking the most time. And that's what they just have a lot of metadata behind them.
Trust me, it's I put this. I want to say I'm on your side because it's not really how this works. I'm actively trying to seek the truth,
Right.
and seeking the truth means we have to turn over every stone. In cases like this, always we look at the spouse as having a motive potentially, So your cooperation with us is very helpful because it means that we're not off on a bad footing of me wondering why you're not cooperating and me having to get search warrants for your phone and your house and stuff like that. So this way it's much better. Operation is much better, well received, and everything just works better. So, I really can't think of anything else at this point. I'm certain that we're going to have more questions going forward, but we still have a lot to do. So,
I have a question or two.
yeah, absolutely.
So are you expecting to want to come to the house and look through the house?
Not unless something else comes up, put it that way. Go ahead.
So we kind of noticed that the Bonnister PD has done a number of press releases.
We don't have any control over that, and we have nothing to do with that.
Right, but going forward, do you do press releases, and if you do you consult?
Yes.
Do you agree?
Yeah, we try very hard not to mess with any of that. I don't like press releases. It's not our thing. Press releases are something more that the county sheriffs do or city chiefs do because it's a political thing.
Yeah.
And they want to be perceived as doing something. We like to just kind of stay in the background and be ignored. Most people in the state of Idaho don't understand that the state police even have detectives or an investigation division, and we like it that way.
Okay.
So,
as far as information flow, I'm just asking questions that just for benefit. Information flow. I realize that the investigation is confidential, but I know
I told Jennifer early on that I will try to share as much as I can with her,
Right.
and I said part of this is it's important that you maintain the confidentiality. Also, if I'm giving you information related to our investigation, you need to know that that's not going to get spread.
Yes.
Like what we talked about with this guy being the last client and all that.
Oh, right.
We need to follow up on that lead rather than you going and calling and talking to Eldora or whatever her name is and saying, "Tell me all about them." We got to do this ourselves.
I will be.
And the other thing I said, and I extend this to both of you, you have my cell phone number. You're welcome to call it anytime and ask me anything you want to. I'm trying to approach this as a collaboration, but
for any reason, think that there is any reason we should think that my children and I are not safe.
we don't have a motive at this point. I have no idea. I have no clue why this happened to your husband or who did it. I don't know. So my instinct is to say, well, no, this was about your husband and this happened up in Bonner's Ferry. Does that mean that there's not another motive against your family? I can't answer that question. I don't know the answer. Odds are no. Odds are that it has nothing to do with you and your family, but we don't know what we don't know.
So I'm going to say this because I tell this to everybody. It's not my generation, but I'd stay off of Facebook, texting and stuff. I know it's part and parcel